to my card vanishing gimmick that I'm calling Trapezoid. I shared this a few months back and I've developed more ideas, more handlings, more routines for this than I shared in that original video. So what we're gonna do in this vanishing card gimmick masterclass is I'm gonna share with you all these additional routines, handlings, and ideas. We're covering a lot here, from vanishing and reappearing, sandwich routines, a multiple card through card penetration routine with kind of a twist ending, cards across, and even how to kind of just use this as a simple card vanishes from the deck utility. So hope you enjoy. Let's get into the magic. Welcome to the video. If you like magic tricks, be sure to subscribe as I post 2 videos per week. You can also check out my membership tiers for some exclusive content, but for now, let's get into the video. Welcome to the card vanishing gimmick masterclass. Now, this is a gimmick I presented and also shared through Murphy's Magic a little while ago, maybe a few months ago now. And so what I wanted to do is dive deeper into modifications I've made, routines I have constructed around this gimmick, and we're going to dive into all of that. So first, I'm going to re-show the original video. That's just that first video I showed on this channel and through Murphy's. That's going to go through construction and some basic handlings, but feel free to skip through that if you've already seen it. And then we're going to get into the new stuff. We have several routines and some modifications. So I hope you enjoy. This has been really fun to dive deeper into and develop more ideas for. So I hope you enjoy. What's up, guys? I am stoked to share this secret with you today. Under this King of Diamonds, there's a few things going on. So we have the card that gets vanished is cut out in this way. I did like a little trapezoid. And then this King of Diamonds is taped to another card. And the rest of that 5 of clubs is just taped onto that card as well. So it creates like a little puzzle piece, right? And then when these are taped together, none of the queen is actually taped to any of the King of Diamonds. The queen is taped to this piece of the vanish card, and then that piece is taped to the king. So they are only connected by that one little piece. Does that make sense? So this plays upon a principle that does exist in other aspects of Magic, of almost creating like a pocket that you have within a card. But the way we're using it in this case is to hide this card. You're able to like kind of shake it around and it just kind of falls into place. And that's all due to that puzzle piece coming together. Now you can experiment with different shapes to cut into this card, which I certainly have. The reason I like the small trapezoid is, look, you can almost get as much of the card as possible before you expose it, which means you also don't have like an entire edge being exposed. I think one way I used to do it was more of a reverse, where I had it cut here, had a jut out, and then cut here, but then you can't show this much of the card. So this is great. Now it is 3 cards thick, and that's just always going to be the case with this gimmick. So you do have the thickness factor and even potential discrepancies with a paired card. Like if you did this with a Joker, or as I've done it with another king, you kind of always have that situation, right? And so handling is going to be very important for this. But how cool is that? Like if you have a deck of cards right now and double stick tape and scissors, you are done. Like you could make this right now. It'll take you 5 minutes. So something interesting about this is, because this card is contained within here, you have kind of this factor where you can't show it front and back when it's in a sandwich position. What you can do to get around that is this little subtlety where you can display the card and then turn over and show it and then go back. Okay, same thing goes from the front. If you're holding it in this way, you obviously couldn't show that or it would reveal it. So you can just kind of reference it. And this is, I feel like this kind of plays on 3-card Monty, different moves like that, where that turnover, you kind of hide the fact of what's going on. So if you want to show both sides, you can show here, and come back. Then you're going to hold it in a way where, like in my hand, I'm left-handed. If the cards are going from left to right like this, from bottom to top, then when I just kind of glide my hand over, gravity will it'll just nest that card into place, which is super, super cool. You can also vanish it on the table, which I think is a huge advantage of this. So it is a slow change. It's not a visual change. That's where you get your elastics and flaps. So the advantages of this are what you want to play to, is that you can make a very clean display. You're not having to hold pressure on these cards, right? It's just sliding into place. Now, if you want, and I believe this replicates some sort of illusions that you're able to do with maybe arranging normal cards in certain ways. So I think that principle is out there. But with the Gimmick version, you can show this one side and then have a card appear. It's a little more subtle. It's not as like wow factor as I would want it to be, but it is there. So sometimes a limitation can become a strength, right? So you show the two kings and a card appears in between them. I don't know. It is what it is. You can have another card hidden under the card and do a very simple card change. And so that would look like just loading it all together. You can show it front and back since we have that extra card this time. And then you can do the vanish in the same way and show the card. So because this is a thick card, remember to square up and just use the other card to your advantage. So not displaying this card on its own too often and displaying it under the other card. So for just a chill performance where you're just showing people, I think you can come under and you have a lot of play here with like a pinky break, and you can just bring it out like, hey, I have a stack of 3 cards, right? Here's the card. You make it vanish and then you go from there. But let's try to take this a step further. So let's say you force that 5 of clubs and then you do a more normal sandwich routine. But let's say you've revealed a normal 5 of clubs and you're just keeping that gimmick hidden for now. And so you can do that. You can maybe do 1 or 2 phases of that. Then you're going to talk about reversing it. So when it comes down to it, this can be the final phase of a sandwich routine where you put the real 5 of clubs on top of the deck, and then you're going to place the gimmick card on top. And you're going to act as though you're coming over and putting the 5 of clubs in between them again. But what you're really doing is extending the gimmick and getting into position. So now the 5 of clubs is here, and you have the gimmick loaded with the 5 of clubs, and you can turn it over to have it placed in the spectator's hand. So this is playing on, actual coin turtles and, scotch and soda idea. If we can place it in the spectator's hand, that's going to be great. So then you do need to get this card to go face up into the middle of the deck. You could also, palm it into your pocket or a card to wallet if you want to go that far. So then you can put a lot of heat on this where you have them gather up the cards themselves, just have them square it up. And then you do need to come over. That's a limit of this gimmick because it's still a gimmick, but you can come over and just display the cards. And then we can go to the deck or your pocket or wherever you've now loaded the card. And that's a good final twist for a sandwich routine. So do be careful. There is some trouble you might get into if you get it in a spot where it won't square up. I guess the main way that happens is if this side intersects or collides with the piece that it's running into. And so if you have it down here, it won't coalesce. So you do have a lot of play, but just be aware of where the gimmick is and keep it relatively straight. That way you can do this. But it is fun to, I think an advantage of this is that you don't have to be perfectly straight. You can kind of display it like a normal human being, and then you just get into position and you can square it up. Even if it's a little angled beforehand, you can still square it up from there. So I wanted to talk through some different modifications and different versions. So first of all, I have a normal gimmick here. And in this case with the Joker, what I'm able to do is I'm able to note that I've made it on the right side of this Joker. So if I ever want to release the gimmick, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm over here and I'm reaching for it, right, and it won't come out because it's the wrong side. So noting the side of the card is helpful for you when you have it in this orientation with a Joker. Now with a face card, what you could do is lightly mark the card. So in this case, I have black kings. One thing is that you might just be able to tell by feel. So these are not marked. But another thing you could do is you could go into any one of these areas and you could black out one of the spades. For example, just mark something on one side with Sharpie. Black Sharpie would probably be easiest there. And that way it's subtle, but for you, it's going to be very obvious. For anyone else, they're not going to care. But you could black out that side and that would let you know that you're on the side that allows you to release the card. So that's one thing to be aware of, is allowing yourself the ability to know which side it's on. Now, the other thing is the card that you pair it with. Now, this might look normal, but these jokers are going to actually look a lot better together than the original pairing of cards that I showed in my original video. Can you tell the difference? The simple difference is I made this a double card. So I took two cards, or I took an indifferent card. It was like a 4 of diamonds or something, and I taped it to the back of this joker just with some double stick tape. That just makes this a thicker card, so that when I'm showing this around, it looks like a single card. And this card, by comparison, even though it's actually 3 cards thick, it's going to look less discrepant than when I was waving around a single thin joker and this 3 cards thick joker. Do you still need to be aware of angles, especially on the edge? Yes. You also still need to be aware of this splaying out and preventing that. But in general, you're going to be amazed at how much more natural these look together now that this isn't 3 cards thicker than this card. It is, or it's a 3-2 rather than a 3-1 comparison, right? And so it just all looks better together. So this version I have is a face-up card version. This version I have, this is an empty version that is customized for a separate card. And this will make sense for one of the routines we're going to go into. But on this King of Clubs, I had a King of Hearts. And what I've done is I've cut this matching piece out, not only of itself, so that's going to be right here, right? If you remember from constructing your gimmick. But then I took another card and I cut out just with scissors a matching puzzle piece to go into here. What this allows me to do is, for one of the routines, we're actually going to take this card out, believe it or not. We're going to cover this up and we're going to place it into the deck. And when we place it into the deck, it's going to go under. And when it goes into the deck, under cover, you're going to place it basically here. And that's going to allow it to coalesce and then vanish in the deck. So this is the idea here, right? Is that you're able to actually bring one card out from here, swap it into here, and you can use it for something pretty cool. And speaking of that, this last version I have is, instead of having it on jokers facing the opposite way, I have pairs of kings, and I'm having the red kings vanish from between the black kings, so that you could have something like this display. You could square them up and they're gone. So you can use that for some pretty cool routines as well. And in fact, these you can use for multiple routines that we're going to get into. So just to recap, we have our original face up gimmick. We have our King's gimmick. And then this is essentially another face up gimmick, but it's customized to be transferred into from one of these kings, the King of Clubs holding one of the red kings inside it. So when that king goes in here, it'll vanish. So the last thing to note with construction is that I've opted to do matching jokers instead of opposite jokers, just for the sake of the illusion, because in this way they look identical. It's not like, oh, one of them's red, I wonder if the red one, you're able to track which one is which in that case. And I think it just adds to the illusion that the gimmicked one looks just like the quote-unquote non-gimmicked joker, and that just blurs together and makes it easier to get away with, in my opinion. In the case of the kings, obviously you don't have that situation, but they're not so glaringly different as black and white to colored jokers. So I just like doing that. I like putting 2 colored jokers together. I like putting 2 black and white jokers together. All you need is 2 decks in order to do that, and you just swap. And that's for, I should clarify, your standard bicycle decks. Some custom decks, they have matching jokers anyway. You can just take what you are given and kind of work with it. Say stop anywhere you'd like. Let's say you said stop right there. Take a look at your card. I'm going to leave it right back in the middle. All right. Now we're going to get back to that in a moment, but for now, let's look at these jokers here. Watch. All I have to do is snap, and your card actually appears right there in between them. But look, nothing up my sleeves. I'm going to just square them up. And I want you to imagine that card just kind of dancing on over to the deck. Let's see what happened. As you can see, the card is actually completely vanished from the Joker's, meaning it is back in the deck right here. So this is to and fro, just a simple sandwich routine that is perfectly resettable, or it perfectly aligns with how the gimmick works. So in this, I'm going to talk through a couple ways I'm going to talk through a new way to appear the card. I'm going to talk about how I've developed a way to actually get into making that card appear, like we talked about in the first video, and just kind of talk about that get ready idea in general. Now, I really tried to track this person down, but I couldn't find him. There was a fan of Murphy's on Instagram who saw my Saturday Sorcery video with them, and he performed a routine with my gimmick. And so I'm not sure if I came up with this get ready on my own, or if seeing his performance influenced me in that way. In fact, I cannot remember. So to my memory, I might have already been kind of developing this before I even saw his performance, but I did just want to shout out any potential cross inspiration that's made its way back to me. Something about his performance that I really liked was the simplicity. And so I do think I've carried that with me in the mindset of I saw him using it in a way that wasn't overthinking the gimmick, and I really appreciated that. So I've really tried to track him down so I could shout him out in how he used my gimmick, but I did just want to mention that there. So if you're here somehow, let me know. Regardless, I'm not sure. And then just as I came back to this gimmick, I just kind of started working it out myself. But I did remember his routine in terms of how it was just appear in between the Jokers and then go back to the deck. So I do want to shout out his inspiration there. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the fact that you don't need the selection to be actually in between these Jokers ever. And that's something I believe I saw that user do. So what that looks like is being able to make this appear and then vanish just on its own so that the selection never has to leave the deck. So in this gimmick's case, I have a 3 of spades. So for starters, let's just say we have this coalesced and you have it hidden here. You're just going to leave that to the side. You can introduce the Jokers, but just leave them to the side. Then all you have to do is have the 3 of spades forced. So for that, let's just do a simple riffle force. So swing cut the card into the middle. You have your pinky break there. We're going to riffle down. They say stop anywhere they want. You go as though you're going to pick up there, but you cover it. And you actually pick up at the thumb. Okay, that's a quick and dirty riffle force tutorial. Force the card. And now you need to turn over the card in the middle of the deck. There's a lot of ways people have done this. I like using a Cardini change, which might be a little bit, daunting depending on who you are. But for me, I come over covering here and I pull back with my pinky. My index is on the side, and that allows the card to pop up. And then I can hide it under here and just kind of bring everything together. So like I said, that's a little bit maybe convoluted if you're not used to doing the Cardini change. I'm used to doing the Cardini change, and so that's just one method, but pick your favorite. And I'll shout out another YouTuber here. He shared a classic way to turn a card over under the guise of showing other cards, and that is Magic for Beginners. So go check out his channel if you'd like to learn that method. Regardless, you need that card face up in the middle of the deck. So that's there loaded for the finale, which allows you to go over here, show these Jokers as, not having in between them, and then you're going to offer them to hold their hand out. When you do that, you're going to get a break underneath here on the gimmicked Joker, okay, just with your pinky. And then using this Joker, you're going to be able to pull across. And by pulling across, I've loaded the card into place, okay? So from behind, what that is going to look like, I'll try to sort of replicate. You've gotten your pinky underneath so that you can get your thumb in there. And as you pull across, you're actually gripping that card to get it into place. But from the front, you're just kind of adjusting the cards, right? And this also is kind of inspired by the way I see coin handlers get like their flipper coins ready, for example. Like the way Craig Petty has talked about getting both shells and I think mainly flipper coins into place is by you doing that kind of overhand adjustment allows some cover. Okay, so you can kind of see that there. So you've gotten this ready, and what's cool is you can do a few things. You can throw it down, you can pop it on the deck, although in this orientation you'd have to turn it around, so that might be wonky, just so it's shown and not covered under your hand. But one thing that's cool that you can do is you can actually place it in the spectator's hand and instruct them to just turn their hand over and place the cards down. So they'll do that and the card will reveal. I think that is a really cool option that also has their hands involved. The one thing you might notice is that these two will obviously always stay together, and this is a free floater. So something you can do to make this more secure is when you do your get ready, you can actually place this inside the gimmick and then do that get ready. That sort of makes the whole unit one piece, and it won't separate when you turn it over as much. It'll kind of stay together more, and it won't be like all the way out over here. So it keeps it together and will make it less discrepant when they turn those cards over, since you are trusting them to hold the cards. So again, everything is in between those two sides. They're holding it, they turn over. You have one unit where a card has now appeared. All you have to do now is pull that out of the gimmick when you go into displaying and coalescing, okay? Other things you can do if you don't want to give it to someone else is go from here to here. You can do like a slow wave. You can also do it from this grip, slow wave, and now the card has appeared. Regardless of what you do, you can get into trouble with things not being covered. So in that biddle grip moment, you really want to make sure everything is lined up, because discrepancies can arise if you get careless. So you really want to watch, especially those edges, that front and back edge, that everything is lined up as best you can. But there you go. However you reveal it, they now have that first phase of the card being there. And here's a little subtlety you can do. Because this is the only spot you can't show it, you have a lot of freedom there. So you can kind of be, like a normal person, as long as you don't go too far, and kind of do this display where it is protruding forward. It just makes it look like you're holding it casually, especially since you had to be so perfectly lined up in this portion. It's kind of nice to be holding it normally. And so you kind of have that moment there, and then you can do the turnover we talked about in the initial video, where you show the back of the card and you gesture to it. Another thing you can do is you can go up and down between two angles. So you show here, and then you separate, and you show here, and then you place here. And to their front angle, it looks the same, and then just separate and come down, okay? So it's all this motion as you handle the angles. Now you are completely set up to do this final reveal. So it's great. It's almost self-working. You place this in their hands, place it away from yourself, whatever you want to do, and then you can vanish it in the ways we've talked about. So the way that you would do it in the hands is kind of this gradual coalescence. And with that double card now, everything looks really consistent with each other. You know exactly where that opening is, so you can grip it as you need if needed. But I've found myself with these gimmicks to be able to be pretty free. And then you can kind of do this motion. That communicates some casualness too, like this flip over, right? So you can show them front and back, and then it's whatever, the card's gone. So that kind of freeness and casualness really helps in how it looks and feels. And then, of course, they can reveal it. Now, obviously, these are gimmicks, so you got to move on from them, but that provides a pretty great feeling of finality. They've also gotten to hold these in their hand during part of the routine. That adds to some of the fairness and freeness. And there's nothing to see. It's so fair and free looking that I don't think they'll be too worried about these cards. So that is the to and fro simple sandwich routine, along with some of those get ready notes. And again, I want to shout out that user. Check this out. I have 3 cards here. One of them is the 3 of spades. If I just give these cards a shake, that 3 of spades actually ends up shifting up between those 2 jokers. All right, so it was here, now it's here. Let's see if we can get it all the way to go shift once more behind the jokers. The reason that this works is because it's a little bit of an illusion. I mean, obviously, right? It's a magic trick. But no, I mean the 3 of spades itself was just an illusion the whole time. All right, let's talk about this multi-phase melting card routine. I do want to credit the trick melt, and I'll also place, I think there's one other effect that I'll place in the description of this video. Any other crediting information that I need to add, I will put in the description of this video, just in terms of maybe similar like principles that these are playing upon. There's a lot of gimmicks that, without giving away how exactly they're doing it, they're using both layers as well as cuts. I won't say anything more, but that's kind of the principle at play in these rising and falling card gimmicks, right? I'm using layers. I'm not using cuts, but the layers alone can help with the illusion, okay? And so I'll put that crediting below, but I do think this kind of strikes its own version with just the layers. So you have your usual gimmick here, and you can show it at the bottom of the pack. And then this is just playing upon this kind of illusion of having the layers. It'll appear as though it's coming up through the packet. So from this angle, it looks like it's at the bottom. If I slide this card over and show this side, it looks like it's in the middle. So the first phase is just that. You show it like that, like it's on the bottom. And then as you move your hand over, kind of in this slow waving, you're able to show that it's actually come between the jokers, okay? So that's phase one. You can reference it there and then show like that it is now in the middle. By doing that little swap there, right, where you show it's in the middle, so it's here, now it's here, you've actually gotten it ready for the final phase, where once again from this angle, you're going to go up or over to the other angle, and you're going to slide it over, but then turn over as you're sliding, and it's there. So it's almost self-working in the sense of all you're doing each time is sliding and just showing the correct angle. So that to them, it looks like it'll have gone from here to here to here, and all you've done each time is just this motion, okay? So again, from the top, slide, turn over, it's in the middle now, and then slide, turn over, it's made its way all the way from here all the way to here. And then in this moment, all you have to do is once again just show it here, don't turn over here, and then when you get ready for the final phase, say, I'll put it back into the middle. So when you get ready for that final phase, just say, I'm going to just place it back into the middle. You can show it from this angle, do your separation gesture, show it from this angle, and now you're just ready for a vanish. So presentationally, this is great because they've seen it melt all the way through to the top. And now you can say something like, you know why this keeps happening? And they can say why or whatever. You can say, because this is actually a complete illusion. This card isn't even real. You vanish it however you want, and you can have that card in your pocket or back face up in the deck, whatever you want to do. But that right there is just a fully constructed routine in your pocket with this one gimmick. And then by playing with the angles and the sliding of the cards, you make it look like it goes up, 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 and then it was actually an illusion the whole time. Make it appear wherever you want to have it loaded. That I think is really cool because it has a twist in it. It uses the gimmick to its fullest advantages of this weird angle thing with the layers of card and the vanishing aspect. That is a really, really, really great way to kind of make a gimmick work and get the most out of it. All right, I'm going to riffle down the side of the deck. Just say stop, maybe right there. There is your card. Be sure to remember it. We will get back to that later. You may notice I have the 4 kings here on the table. And for this, I'm going to leave them on the table because I don't want there to be any sneaky business here. You'll see the exact moment this happens. Watch. Just square them up. And I do this. I snap over the deck and watch what happens. Those 2 red kings have actually completely vanished from the black kings. But they had to go somewhere, right? So let's see what happened. Inside the deck, you see we actually have those 2 red kings surrounding one card, your card. This is a really cool sandwich routine that you can do with the 2 kings gimmick. And in this situation, we have the deck loaded up, ready to go with a king face up, an indifferent card face down, and then a king face up on the bottom of the deck. This plays on an old principle where, by cutting the deck, you're able to place cards together. So then the sandwich card will end up in between. So we've just shortcutted to just having that all loaded up. So what you're going to do is a riffle force again. And then when you show the riffle forced card, you want to hide this bottom and this top. So you're just going to hold it like that, okay? So again, when they say stop and you go to the force card, keel up, show that force card, and you can see what's happening behind the scenes here. You show that card, you come back, you load it, and now it is ready to reveal later, okay? So that's hidden there. Now let's talk about these kings. Now you're going to be able to get into this in a certain way, but let's talk about that in a second. For now, you can kind of see where this is headed. You can vanish these however you want, but when it comes to displaying them like this is fine, but remember that when you turn them over, that'll look weird. So, but what you can do is show them in twos. And I think that's really fair and free looking, just because the eye isn't able to tell that there's a swapping happening. So you can show them, that looks very free, and then you can vanish them in your hand. But what I think is cool is to have them on the table. You see all four, they become a neat little stack, and you can do this motion. And then I like to push with a single finger, and that just looks really cool. So you vanished those two kings, and then you can go into your reveal. It's just a quick and easy way to do it. If you're comfortable with, obviously in this situation, you have to have your deck set up for it. So let's talk about now how you get into the kings being displayed, because you have something to work with here, which is 2 sets of gimmicks. So you'll notice that if you're trying to get into it the normal way, like we talked about in the initial video, you'd have to do something like this. You'd have to do this, and then you'd have to like kind of swap hands and get the other gimmick ready. Now, if you get speedy with it, I'm sure that could be fine, but here's just an idea. If you have these kings in the deck, here's what you can do. You take the deck out all loaded up, ready to go. Obviously, you don't let them see the top or the bottom, but by block spreading, you can hide all of that. You find your way to the first set of kings, set that down on the table, and you can get the gimmick ready in your hand and just place it down. And you can say, all right, we're just going to use these 2 kings. Actually, you know what? And then you say like, oh, as though it's an afterthought. And then you go to that next set of kings, place this down, and you can get the gimmick ready in the hands once again, just because this is going to provide a lot of coverage and it just looks like you're kind of adjusting cards. So you get these ready too. So that's just an easy way to kind of get yourself ready for this. To them, the trick hasn't started, and you can then produce the kings in this way. And then when you want to place them together, you can. So you show them, you place them together maybe, and then you do your force, goes into the deck. You can display them in twos once again, and then you have that amazing vanish and reappearance of the kings. So that's just for those of you who are comfortable with a deck that is prepped to that degree. You know, I understand if that's maybe not the one for you, but then the deck is kind of good to go, and these kings are out of the way. If you want to get rid of them, place them to the side. You can also keep the normal kings in there, and then, you know, pocket these, cop these away if you want to. Check this out, 4 cards. I'm going to place 3 of them in one hand, and I'm going to place the other one in the other, just like this. Now watch. All I do is give them a little shake, and one actually travels over. Now, you didn't really know what was going to happen, so I'm going to give you all the chances to catch what is happening here. All right, this time we'll go back to where we were just now. I'm going to place 2 and 2. Once again, give it a little shake, and we have 1 and 3. All right, now I need to make it even harder on myself because we're going to the big finish. So let's use one of the 4 kings here. Let's use the King of Hearts, and I'm going to place the rest to the side. I'm going to use the deck for the last one. Like I said, I wanted to make it even harder. And I'm going to place it deep down into the cards, facing the other way, so you can actually see the moment this happens, all right? To get it back with the other kings, all I have to do is gather them up, and just like that, the card completely vanishes and ends up back with the other 4 kings. Okay, if you remember earlier, we talked about having a card being able to transfer between here in a like face down fashion into here in a face up fashion. So we're going to use one of the gimmicked kings for the cards across here, and the king that's inside here needs to be matched to the joker I have here so that it can go face up, okay? So we talked about that earlier in the video, just check that out if you need. So that is going to go on top of the deck, this joker here, to where, for me, toward the outside, I'll be able to thumb riffle down and access the hidden compartment, okay? So that's the first part. That can just be set aside. The only other thing you're going to need is 3 normal kings. So you can leave the king of clubs aside since that's the gimmicked one, but then you're going to get all the other normal kings out. So there we go. All right, so now when it comes to handling, there was kind of one way I was doing this at first, but I realized it's a little finicky. So now I've kind of modified it to be as easy as possible. It's going to seem a little awkward at first, but you'll understand why I am doing it this way. So the reason this is finicky is that what's easy to set up for is it's easy to set up these cards when there's multiples and then put them into this hand. But then what's hard is to get the gimmick to coalesce correctly when it's in this hand. You can do it, but it gets a little hard when you're dealing with both hands. So what I wanted to be able to do was to set up the gimmick and then put it in this hand, because it's easiest to go, for me, from a straddle grip in my subordinate hand into toward the card so that it coalesces into the gimmick as best as it can. So how do you do both of those things while also dealing with other cards? So here's how I kind of do it. You have your 3 normal cards and your 1 gimmicked card here at the bottom, and we're basically just going to use that thumb get ready. Tarbell talks about it, others talk about it. It's kind of a simple one just because a pinky count can be unreliable here, and so I just use the thumb pull from behind so that only 1 card of the gimmick has been pulled away. That gives you access to the insert card. Then you can pull over, okay? And this is kind of also in Tarbell and many others, kind of a palming position that is kind of simple, this kind of thumb and your 4 fingers hiding it, and you're kind of in this biddle grip. From there, you're going to count all the cards down, except for this top one you can just slide over. So that's going to leave you with 2 cards here in your dealer's grip and 3, what appears to be 3 cards here, okay? So that's a little convoluted, but all you're really doing is adjusting the packet, dealing some cards down, and then you're here. What that allows you to do then is kind of push this forward and then pull away these 2 cards as one, and now you're here where you are going to be able to easily coalesce this into straddle grip, okay? So again, like I said, it is a little convoluted, but the benefit is that the trick hasn't started yet, so you can kind of get away with that, and then now you're in a better position. So now I have my dominant hand clipping 2 cards as one, and I have this in a much easier way to vanish it. So then for the first transposition, it coalesces just so easily here, and then all you have to do is shake and separate these cards here. And the great thing is you can show the face-up cards because the duplicate will have been vanished. So it all looks correct. So that's your first transposition. You can immediately go back, and you're going to kind of do the same get ready again. So you're going to thumb so that you just have the insert card under your control, pull it over, and you can pull over 3 cards this time, and you're going to have these 2 together and 1 here, and these are already separated to look like 2, so that when you come over, all you have to do is that switch over again, right? So you switch over here, place this forward, clip these, keep them tight so they don't separate yet, and now look. So like I said, it's a little weird, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to quickly move into each section. So then you can coalesce again and separate over here, okay? And then you can show them. This also keeps this card here in kind of your home base the whole time, right? It's always here. Bring these back here. You do your get ready one more time, but this time you're going to actually take just the insert card out, which will be the King of Hearts. Because you know this King of Clubs is on the bottom, you never have to worry about flashing the duplicate King of Hearts if you keep this all together. So what you can do is show, like, I'm going to grab the King of Hearts here. Now you need to take a deep grip to hide the insert, right? Hide that trapezoid, and then you can place all these cards down somewhere. This is where the deck comes into view. You're going to do that single thumb count, and you're going to turn this over, and you're going to hide it, right? So you're hiding it here with a deep grip. All you need to do is feed that part of the card in, and then once everything is covered, you're here. And all you're saying is that you're going to place it into the deck. You don't have to explain why you're doing it this way. Just place it in, square it up, and eventually it'll just look like this anyway. Okay, so now you have this wonderful display of the card. You can have them gather it up themselves if you'd like. And now you're here, it's gone. and you can show that the king has returned to all 4 kings. Now, if you'd like, you can cop this away, shuffle these in and cop this away, whatever you want to do. You also have that joker in there, so be aware of that as well. But that is your cards across. So other than the moves that I already mentioned, I would just shout out in the history and literature, like this kind of plays upon coin turtle and like flipper coin usage. Shout out to Craig Petty and his handlings of it. When you kind of have your hand in this position and you're adjusting things, that's kind of what I'm going for. Also some Tony Chang ideas on this move and sleight of hand. There's others as well. When it comes to the coalescing and uncoalescing, that's kind of the invisible palm routine. And so there's history in the literature there as well. And I'll throw any other credits down below for that. So just to backtrack to the second phase here, when you're in this position and you come under, you clip, this can be a little hard to separate, and that's okay. So you're kind of here. It's not as easy as doing, like if you were able to get it in this position where the top is clipped, you could pull over easily, right? Something that might make it a little better looking is once you've done that, get ready, you go 1, 2, 3. Instead of putting the double together here, what you can do is hold a pinky break, and when you deal that last card over, you hold the pinky break there, you separate it out so that now you have the double up top, okay? Does that make sense? So you have the double up top. Then when you come under, it's a little more precarious, but if you're able to pull that off and come under and then get into your position, it'll be a lot easier to make that separation visual. Does that make sense? So if you're on the bottom, it can be a little hard to make those cards separate because it's like, what are you doing to make that happen? But if you have it to where the double is on top, it's going to be easier to just separate it, okay? It just takes a little extra get ready. So from the top on that, you do your get ready. You go 1, 2, pinky break, 3, pull that over, place. These 3 fingers can help as well so that everything's in line to then get into position to do the transference. And that's why I'll be very upfront about this idea. Who knows if it's best use for this gimmick to do a full multi-phase cards across. This is just how I would conceive using the gimmick, okay? So definitely take practice, but if you don't want to do the full phases, you can take portions of it because I still think the visual is very, very cool, okay? Check this out. Just say stop. Let's say you stopped there. Take a look at this card. This is going to be your card, but I'm going to do something interesting. I'm actually going to place it facing the opposite way in the deck, all right? So you can see it sticking out there. You can still see it sticking out there. In fact, you could do this yourself. You could just gather the cards up, and that card that you selected will vanish completely from the deck, and it can show up anywhere we want, in my pocket, in my wallet, whatever it may be. All right, a little bit more of an experimental idea. I wanted to use this as a vanishing card gimmick, similar to like a short card vanisher gimmick, if you're kind of aware of what those are. And to do that, you have to do something kind of weird. So you're going to have the gimmick separated out, and obviously you have to hide this, but we'll get into that. And then right underneath the insert, you're going to have the container, for lack of a better term. And you want to have it toward your thumb grip, so you can do like a thumb count, okay? And then you have this here. And once again, what's kind of cool is that this hides, especially with blue cards. This hides semi-well. You can even have your thumb over it, probably hide it. But if you're worried about that, you can just make sure you hide that side. But you're going to take the cards. Once again, we'll do a nice little riffle force. And then you're going to show the card. And then here's what you're going to do. You can place this down on the table or underneath. But after you've shown the card like so, hiding here, obviously, you're going to do something similar to the cards across routine. So you're going to come over and hide with your hand the trapezoid, do a thumb count down 1, and insert this face up. And you're going to explain that you're going to place it face up in the deck. And then you pick this up and say, actually, let's place it really low down. So that's kind of your justification there. You can do that exact same spread technique where it looks kind of normal there. That's how you're able to get it so that it's inside a deck spread. Then you can have them gather the deck up themselves, spread it themselves. It'll be gone, holy moly. And you can have it appear in your pocket or in whatever situation you want. So that's just more as a practical tool that you can have the deck set up for that, but just a little bit of a bonus idea. So another thing you can do is oil and water. So I have a double here of the King of Hearts and the King of Diamonds, a normal King of Clubs, and just one of the King gimmicks, so that now these look separated or, interspersed with each other. Just the simple red, black, red, black. All I do is bring these together, snap my fingers, and now these are separated. It's not much of a full routine, I'll be completely honest, but you do have that possibility of something you can do with that. And of course, there's lots of oil and water tricks that use kind of the doubling up of cards. So just a kind of simple, quick and easy way to do one phase of an oil and water. Just wanted to note the possibility with this gimmick. So that was Trapezoid. I love using this gimmick, and I hope you enjoy and appreciate just having it here shared with you. Would love to hear what you're excited to try out first in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you want more, you can check out the membership for some exclusive content. Pick up some merch from the Magic merch store. I also have a journal for magicians. You can check out all those links below. And if you want more free content, check out the video that YouTube is recommending to you right now. But until next time, keep enjoying your magic, stay a hobbyist at heart, and I will see you guys in the next video.